Welcome to the It Is Written podcast. As doubts about God's will arise, the world resorts to feelings and experts. We go to the law and to the testimony of God's Word. In today's episode, we are in Proverbs 5, 6, and 7. The proverb writer warns his sons about women who will come after them and make aggressive advances toward them. What advice does he have for his sons, and what can we take from it?
We are in an era of sexual infidelity. I'd like for us to turn to Proverbs 2 and look at some things Proverbs says about women and our relationship to them. So would you read what wisdom will do for us in Proverbs 2 verses 16 to 19?
It will rescue you from a forbidden woman, from a wayward woman with her flattering talk, who abandons the companion of her youth and forgets the covenant of her God. For her house sinks down to death, and her ways to the land of the departed spirits. None return who go to her. None reach the paths of life.
So here you've got this wicked woman, adulterous woman, who flatters with her words. I think one of the things we've failed to recognize about sexual seduction is that it often starts with words.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And she tells this guy how wonderful he is, how cool he is, how wise he is, how she respects him, how she appreciates him, how she thinks he's great. And guys are vulnerable to a woman's talk. So this thing doesn't start out sexually. It starts out with just a closer and closer friendship. They get to know each other well. They go out to eat together. And she just continues to tell him how awesome he is, and he's vulnerable to that. So don't forget the flattery. But think about her as she is baiting her trap and she's reeling the fish in. She's leaving the companion of her youth. She is not someone who is faithful. She doesn't have any commitment to relationships. She uses people. She's only concerned with her own gratification. What's she doing to the covenant she made with her first husband, the husband she's married to? And then you think about the consequences. Her house sinks down to death. Her tracks lead to the dead. And it's a point of no return. People get involved with her, find out that they can't go back. We ought to think about the rocks that destroyed other ships and avoid them. So Proverbs, Solomon is teaching wisely his son, watch out for those kind of women. But they're not going to look like it. They're just going to start with talking and with this friendship and with this closeness that gradually evolves into a sexual relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then look at Proverbs 5, as you've got a similar situation described in more detail. Again, why don't you read verses 3 through 6?
Though the lips of the forbidden woman drip honey, and her words are smoother than oil, in the end she's as bitter as wormwood and as sharp as the double-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps head straight for Sheol. She doesn't consider the path of life. She doesn't know that her ways are unstable.
Again, her lips. We think about her lips and we think about kissing. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's what he means. It's smoother than oil is her speech. It's what she says, her flattery, inflating his ego. It may be face-to-face words. It may be texting words. It may be internet words. We've got a lot of different ways of communicating these days. We've got to be very guarded and very careful. Just like I wouldn't have a lengthy conversation with a woman alone. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't be doing that in texts or in other communications like that. I almost always try to loop in my wife or her husband or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's wise. Let them see the messages, include them in the messages. I know one thing my wife and I, a policy we have is we call it the open phone policy. And if at any time she says, hey, can I see your phone? There's no ands, ifs, wait. It is just here you go. I mean, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. Yeah, here you go. And she might not be looking for something on my phone. She might just be needing to access, an app or something. But that kind of transparency, I think, is important because these things happen in people's relationships all the time.
And it's so deadly. Her feet go down to death. There's a consequence to these kind of relationships. So look at what he says, 7 through 14.
So now, sons, listen to me. And don't turn away from the words from my mouth. Keep your way far from her. Don't go near the door of her house. Otherwise you will give up your vitality to others and your years to someone cruel. Strangers will drain your resources, and your hard-earned pay will end up in a foreigner's house. At the end of your life, you will lament when your physical body has been consumed, and you will say, "How I hated discipline and how my heart despised correction. I didn't obey my teachers or listen closely to my instructors. I'm on the verge of complete ruin before the entire community."
Get away from her. Verse 8, keep your way far from her. Do not go near the door of her house. Change your job. Break off contact completely. If you are starting to get too close to somebody, get away immediately and don't leave a forwarding number. You quit looking at the girls. Quit porn. Quit looking at things on the internet you shouldn't. Quit fantasizing. Get away. Get your mind purified. And, it's foolish to try to test how strong you can be, just how much poison you can take into your system, how much temptation you can withstand before you fall. Don't do that. Because with her, you lose everything. You lose your strength and vitality. You lose your life. You lose your money. You lose your health. And eventually, when everything goes bad, you think, I should have listened.
Yeah.
The remorse.
That, in some ways, might even be worse. Oh, man.
Yeah, the mental anguish.
Yeah.
You know you shouldn't have done that. People warned you and you went there anyway. And it can bring such loss in the midst of the assembly of the congregation. It brings shame, humiliation. It ruins political careers. It ruins your relationship with other brethren. It just ruins everything. It ruins your relationship with your family. There's so much to be lost. And it's just that gradual thing. One thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. We've got to blow the whistle immediately and just be very guarded in our relationships. And then look at chapter 6. He talks about it again. He talks about the importance of wisdom to help in that. Would you read 24 to 28?
They will protect you from an evil woman, from the flattering tongue of a wayward woman. Don't lust in your heart for her beauty, or let her captivate you with her eyelashes. For a prostitute's fee is only a loaf of bread, but the wife of another man goes after a precious life. Can a man embrace fire and his clothes not be burned? Can a man walk on burning coals without scorching his feet?
So he's talking about the adulterer. And he says there are terrible consequences. You can't walk on coals and not burn your feet. Nobody ever says, I committed adultery and I'm so glad I did. My life has gotten so much better. It's the best decision I ever made. That's not what happens. It has scars. It has painful consequences. It's like playing with fire and thinking you can remain unscathed. He says in verse 29, so is the one who goes into his neighbor's wife. Whoever touches her will not go unpunished. There is a terrible aftertaste in all of those relationships. There's just so much damage, so much stress. You don't want to go there. It's not worth it. And you see how Solomon was the wisest man in the world, and he warns and warns and warns his children about the danger of women. Then he ends up succumbing to it in many ways.
Right, yes.
So it really shows you the seductiveness of that. And then look again at chapter 7 for a moment. He's teaching again how God's words will keep them, verse 5, from the adulteress, from the foreigner who flatters with her words. So would you read verses 6 through 10?
At the window of my house I looked through my lattice. I saw among the inexperienced, I noticed among the youths a young man lacking sense. Crossing the street near her corner, he strolled down to the road to her house. At twilight, in the evening, in the dark of the night, a woman came to meet him, dressed like a prostitute, having a hidden agenda.
Yes, Solomon was kind of observing this through his window.
Yeah, it's cool to think about.
Yeah, and he realized here's this naive guy, lacking sense,
Yes.
Wrong place, wrong time. He was aimless. She was not. She had an agenda. He didn't. She comes to him dressed to kill spiritually. And, that's what she was looking for. She was on the prowl to find some naive guy that she could seduce. And so look at what she does, verse 13 to 20.
She grabs him and kisses him. She brazenly says to him, I've made fellowship offerings. Today I've fulfilled my vows. So I came out to meet you, to search for you. I found you. I've spread coverings on my bed, richly colored linen from Egypt. I've perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let's drink deeply of lovemaking until morning. Let's feast on each other's love. My husband isn't home. He went on a long journey. He took a bag of silver with him and will come home at the time of the full moon.
Yes. So she uses shock treatment. She grabs him and starts kissing him.
Yeah.
Immediately she's on top of him. She's with him. And she's got this good story. She's paid her vows. She's a nice religious woman. And she's come just for him.
That right there is, I think, the most hilarious, laughable part about the whole thing.
Nobody was like him. He was so special. She's just so attractive to him. Mm-hmm. And it makes, again, the flattery goes to his head. And she's got all the sensual appeal. She says, come, let us drink our fill of love until morning. Mm-hmm. It's not designed to be a long-term thing. It's just for the night. And my husband, she's got a husband, but he's not home. He took a big bag of money. He'll be gone for a while.
And he won't come home till the time of the full moon. So I know when he's coming back. We're not going to get caught.
Yeah, that's right. And it's not going to be permanent. It's just going to be for a little while.
Right.
What great luck though. He's gone with a bag of money. We can count on him to be gone for a few days. And it says in verse 21, with her many persuasions she entices him. With her flattering lips she seduces him. And he goes like an ox to the slaughter. How many people have been killed by this woman, have lost their virginity, lost their purity, lost their family, lost their job, lost their respect. It's not worth it. I mean, this constant barrage of teachings about the sin of adultery and the danger of this woman should make us really watchful. Whether we're a man or a woman, watch the development of relationships that are improper. Be very concerned about that. We put up plenty of guards and stay really close to the Lord, because there's great danger in sexual sin.
Thank you for listening to the It Is Written podcast. If you'd like to leave a review, we would ask that you would do so in your preferred listening platform so that we can use this as an opportunity to reach those who would like to hear God's Word. And if you have any questions or comments or suggestions for future episodes, feel free to send Gary an email at garyfisher1063@gmail.com. We hope you have a blessed day.